Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome back to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me, the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And joining the panel this week, it's the Bry Guy Signal.
Hey, guys.
So we got a lot to discuss, so we're going to get right into the topics. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE if you're joining the conversation. The biggest news of the week, we covered this a little bit on our 2018 preview edition, and I am very sad to report.
Because this came out, what, like a day or two after?
A day or two after the episode dropped. I highly recommend re-listening to the episode if you have not caught up with it.
Still relevant.
Yes. Deadpool 2 has jumped ahead on the movie slate for the, what do you call it now, the Marvel, Disney, Fox conglomerate?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, it legal terms, it's still technically 20th Century Fox because while the deal has gone through whatever motions it has to go through with the companies, in the government sense, it still has to be approved, which can take anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So even if that was going on today, it would still be January of next year, if not until June next year, for it to be approved. And that was if it was being looked at right now, and I can't say if it is or not.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's still technically 20th Century Fox.
So 20th Century Fox has moved Deadpool 2 up to May 18th, I believe, is the release date. Mm-hmm. And they have pushed New Mutants, which was slated for release this year, to, I believe, February of 2019.
Yeah, push back 10 months.
Yes. I am deeply upset by this because I don't know about you guys. I saw that trailer. I was like, I have no idea what is going to happen here, but this looks completely new and a fresh take on the hero genre of movies. And now I got to wait on this.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat you were. I, was very intrigued to see it. I know you told me about a little bit about it, and the trailer dropped, and I was, this is different. This is interesting. This could be something. So I was very interested to see it, and then I see the headline. It's getting pushed back 10 months, and I'm like, wait, why?
Yeah, I don't really know. Bry Guy, what's your take on it?
I don't know. I didn't really read much into it. I just saw it's like, okay, Deadpool's been pushed up to May, and then, Josh, you were saying how, okay, Marvel's apparently going all in for May this year. And then I just saw, okay, New Mutants pushed back to February. And it's like I was looking through the article, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really say why. It's like if it was going to come out this year, post-production, everything should be done. So I don't really know why it would be pushed back till a whole 10 months.
Yeah, usually at this point when the trailer comes out, it's almost a guaranteed lock the movie is coming out.
Yeah.
And for it to get pushed back, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it.
Yeah, usually when you see the first trailer, there's if it's not done, there's usually a first rough cut done.
Yeah. And usually going by that, they start testing and screening, and maybe it didn't test well.
Yeah.
I have not personally read anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at some stuff, and of course, this is nobody telling me anything. This is just stuff I have read. I've read from a couple of places, reliable people that I trust. And they're not telling me this. It's just what they post. From what I understand, they did test screenings on the Fox lot 2 weeks ago now, and that the screenings went good, but not great. And that, from what I understand, Fox is not okay with the tone of the movie. That, from what I understand, it's the director made a horror movie and put X-Men characters into it. That it's a little darker than anything that has been done in the X-Men universe thus far. And Fox is not, considering how much money Fox has put into the movie already, they're not confident it would make back its money.
See, that's where I would disagree, because I think it would make bank. I mean, my humble opinion, if that fact is true from what Pat was saying, that if you're going for a different direction and you're trying to get a new audience in to see your movie, you got to switch it up. And especially for the New Mutants, which, unless you're a diehard X-Men fan, you really don't know a lot about, because their time where they were the replacement team for one version of the X-Men when they were gone, Charles Xavier was trying to get a new group, and he put together a new team that were going to eventually be the quote-unquote heirs to the throne. And good.
I mean, going off of that aspect, maybe one thing they could be doing is maybe they're going to add Cable, because in that, what you're talking about, Ken, is when Charles Xavier was gone, Cable showed up and he started training the New Mutants, if comic knowledge serves me correctly. So maybe they're possibly going to go throw him in because they pushed Deadpool up, but I feel like that would just sort of be very messy if they did it, because that would be a whole reshoot of a movie. I
agree. I think it would be. I don't think that's the route they're going to go, because you are right. I mean, eventually down the road for the original run of New Mutants, Cable does come in and takes over the group and makes them into X-Force. Now, I know that there has been talk of doing an X-Force movie, at least rumblings I've heard, nothing set in stone, no official word, but, I read fan blogs.
And that could change now with the whole Disney buying out 20th Century Fox. They might not want to do an X-Force series.
Yeah, the Fox is already working on stuff that they'd like to make in terms of superhero movies, but given the fact that Disney is eventually probably going to acquire Fox, because let's be real, something could happen at the 11th hour and it doesn't go through.
Oh, that's true.
They are working on stuff. There is stuff in development in terms of their superhero franchises that, once Disney officially acquires them, may never get off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's all possibilities. And like I said, we're all speculating because, we're all fans here. We don't know anything official. We're just, going by, different stuff we've read and heard through other various sources. The one area, though, I would say, though, if you are switching it up because you didn't want to go to a horror movie, why not? Because this is the time to do it. I mean, the recent success at the box office, and we've discussed this on a previous episode, this is the perfect time to do it if you're going to switch it up and try something crazy.
Well, I'm not sure they're
not crazy, but you know what I mean.
I'm not sure they're kind of gun shy on making it a horror movie. I think they just might be, the tone might be a little too dark. And I might be comparing apples to oranges here. You look at Batman vs Superman, darker in tone, wasn't that well received.
But if you're selling a movie as a horror movie, you go into it expecting a darker tone movie.
Yeah, no, I understand your point, and I'm sure that Batman vs Superman, depending on what side of the fence you're on, if you loved it or you hated it, and we can get into a whole other show about that at another point, I can understand if movie studios are going to be a little gun-shy, because obviously when you put two iconic characters in there and you try telling the story they did, it's not going to resonate with everybody.
Right.
And I think with New Mutants, though, it's kind of a more wide open range, because you're not exactly talking about an iconic group. I mean, they do have their place in Marvel history, and if you go through the lineage of the X universe, they do have a spot there. But I don't think it's one that, if they went the story that they were going to go, was really going to be detrimental, and the fans were going to be screaming, just an outcry of just anger about it. I think it was going to actually work. I mean, that's why I'm kind of really disappointed by it, because they really have never gone this route with a superhero group or hero. And for it to work, the storyline material was going to work for what they were going to do. So I don't know. I'm just really questioning the move, and I hope they're not trying to make it into something it's not.
Well, I think just they're being very careful with this. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have pushed it back 10 months. But I think they're being careful. It's kind of like what you said. They're not the big core group of X-Men. The core group of X-Men will pull in the large audience because people know them. People, like Brian and myself remember the cartoon in the 90s, the movies, this, that, and the other. It's not, you're not going to go there expecting to see Cyclops, Storm, Jean Grey. You're going to have your niche Marvel fans who read that growing up, who are familiar with that growing up. So maybe they want to be careful because they know, okay, we're going to pull in a decent crowd for this. We're going to get the comic book fans. We're going to get the Marvel fans. We're going to get the, New Mutants fans. We want to be a little extra careful with this because we know we're appealing to a very specific group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, though, I just look at this move as really kind of puzzling. More so moving Deadpool up, and they're really stacking the deck for the month of May, like Brian was touching about, is you have Avengers Infinity War coming out May 4th. 2 weeks later, you have Deadpool 2. And then if you're tying this in with the Marvel Disney family, you have the Han Solo movie coming out a week after.
I'm guessing they're really banking on May the 4th be with you that month, that they're going to make a bunch of money.
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you're going to go see any movies next summer, it's going to be that month.
But the thing is when you have a lot of, I would say, people who are a fan of the comic book movies are also a fan of the Star Wars ones. It kind of appeals to a lot of demographics. it is kind of a little risky having 3 big movies coming out in 1 month.
I agree.
I mean, not trying to get like economical here, but it's like movie tickets go for what, $11 a piece? It's like people going into May need to know it's like, all right, I got to set aside $33 to go see movies.
It's also not the only horror movie coming out that month. The Slender Man movie is coming out May 18th.
But New Mutants, though, was scheduled for April, the original date, I believe. So you're checking that as we're talking here on the show. No, but I agree with you, though. I think it's a lot to go all in on, and you're trying to almost guarantee that you're going to have your movie be number one for the entire month of May. I
mean, Infinity War out of those 3 movies is going to be the one that's going to make the most bank. I mean, we've been building up for 10 years for it.
Yeah.
But then probably Deadpool 2 will pull back. Deadpool 2 will pull in a good crowd because people really like the first one, and then Han Solo has the Star Wars name slapped on it. So
yeah, which I'm kind of waiting to see the first trailer come out and kind of see what we're going to be looking at.
Supposedly, it's supposed to be a space western. So
they've been saying that for years.
So I'd be okay with a Firefly-esque movie set in the Star Wars universe.
Well, they need to do it.
Okay with.
They need to do that because they really got to make it stand out from the regular Star Wars movies.
Yeah, like I would not mention Jedi or anything in that movie.
No, you definitely shouldn't. I think you need to make it as standalone as possible, especially if you're going to do a trilogy, because you already know that what's going to happen with the characters. Anytime you do prequels, and I think I've said this before, you're kind of walking on a really fine line of telling a really great story to one that the fans already know, well, nothing bad's going to happen to that character. I know that they survive.
Right.
Like, that's one of the nice things about, like, say, the Hobbit trilogy, that was a good prequel, is like, okay, you kind of, people got annoyed that Peter Jackson didn't focus a whole lot on Bilbo, but it's like, well, you know Bilbo's going to make it out of this trilogy alive along with Gandalf because they're in the next one, so you focus on the dwarves who aren't in the next movie, so you're like, okay, that's why it kind of works, but I agree with what you're saying. It's like, don't be pitting Han Solo in these life or death situations where you're like, okay, well, he's not going to die. We got to get to episode 7 for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So minor spoiler there.
I think people are going into the Han Solo movie more so, you know, obviously it's not going to do as well as Last Jedi did. Last Jedi, of course, just recently crossed into the number 10 grossing film of all time. It's not going to pull Last Jedi numbers. It's going to do well, but I think the core audience is going to be the people that are invested in the character, invested in his history and his past. But like we said, May is a loaded month, and yes, New Mutants was originally going to come out in April, but
okay.
But like we said, May is a busy month. I'm no marketing expert. I taken a marketing class in college. You can almost bank on Star Wars doing a lot of May the 4th promotion and having it in there somehow.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, if they were going to do something really crazy, I would like to see a Star Wars trailer in Avengers Infinity War, because if you're going to do May the 4th be with you,
they didn't do it in front of. If they didn't do in front of Last Jedi, I would be surprised if there will be a trailer of some sorts in front of Avengers. I'm sure. I don't think it'll be the first one, because if you wait until that long to put the first trailer out, whoa boy.
No, you do. A teaser though.
Or it'd be. I was gonna say if Han Solo movie would come out that month, I feel like they would do their final trailer for the movie with Infinity War, because it's gonna come out like 3 weeks later.
Yeah, and they haven't put a trailer out because, of course, the MO ever since Disney took over the franchise has been they typically don't promote the next movie while the next movie is done. It's in post-production, you know, what have you. They typically don't promote it until after the current movie that is out has run its cycle in theaters.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. Going to be a busy month, but with Deadpool now coming into the big summer blockbuster time period, how is it going to rank? Is this going to help the movie? Is it going to hurt the movie? That's going to be a question moving forward that we want to know. Let us know your opinion. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHEE. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for the second segment of this week's Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. And there was a lot of Marvel talk going on this week. And one that kind of flew under the radar, but not under ours, Pat, you want to hit him with the news?
Yeah, so a little interesting tidbit of news dropped last week, and that was some information as to do with the Tom Hardy starring Venom movie.
Interesting.
Yes, now, of course, Tom Hardy is playing Eddie Brock, a.k.a. Venom, the big bad, one of Spider-Man's arch nemesis, very well known. Coming out this year, if I'm not mistaken, but it revealed, and I want to get your guys' thought on this, the comic lines that it is following for the movie, that it will be primarily based on Lethal Protector and Planet of the Symbiotes.
Lethal Protector is a good call. Planet of the Symbiotes, I don't know. I'm on the fence about that one. For me, I always look at Venom as the anti-hero, the one that I remember the Todd McFarlane run of Spider-Man, and that was just Venom to me.
I was going to say, for those of you who aren't familiar with the character, if you are DC fans, I would say the best way to describe Venom is he is Spider-Man's Bane. Green Goblin is Spider-Man's Joker. Venom is his Bane because the symbiote knows Spider-Man, so therefore when it joined with Brock, it knew how to beat Spider-Man. It could avoid his spider senses, and it put Spider-Man through hell to try to beat Venom.
And I think Venom grew to be such a popular character that they did try the anti-hero route with him. I think that with that being said, though, I don't really know how the take is going to be because Venom, I don't think has a big rogues gallery. I know the Planet of the Symbiotes is a storyline, but I know you kind of start dealing with different elements. And I mean, me personally, I need to at least see a Carnage teaser.
Oh, I'm sure there will be.
In there at some point.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, this is another comic tidbit. Carnage, the red-suited symbiote, that's very famous. He is Venom's son. The symbiotes will always have like will always make a second one of themselves, and Venom produced Carnage. So I feel like it would be a good idea for them not to include Carnage probably in this movie, but hint at it so that way if there's a sequel and this one does good, it's like, okay, you set up that Carnage is around.
And I'll ask the panel this question. Based off the initial introduction to movies with Venom, how important is this movie to be a home run?
Very. Because for those who don't remember, Spider-Man 3 wasn't that good.
No, I agree. Bri?
I mean, I saw Spider-Man 3 when I was young, so I had some enjoyment out of it, but yeah, it's not very good. And I don't blame Raimi for that. That movie's failure came down to the studio straight up like, okay, Raimi, we want you to put Venom in it. Well, that's not going to happen. No, put Venom in it. Well, it's not going to work for it. Put Venom in the movie.
However it got forced in there, it just felt like Venom was forced into the movie.
Yeah, because if correct us if we're wrong, please. We can't remember there being an origin story for him in that movie.
No, there isn't. In the movie, Eddie Brock is introduced. That's the first time I ever meet him. He becomes disgruntled when Peter publicly shames him in front of the office. He gets fired. Eddie Brock literally goes to a church, which is true to the origin story when he gets Venom. He goes to the church to ask God to kill Peter Parker, and then the symbiote, Peter rips it off of him using a church bell, and then it drops on Eddie Brock, and that's how you get Venom.
Yeah, it's loosely based off the comic book origin. If you've never read it, I highly recommend reading it. The artwork is phenomenal. Like it said, it's drawn by Todd McFarlane. And going in with that, though, I do agree. I think Venom does need to be a home run because if it is true that the studio did force him into Spider-Man 3 just to force him in, it does make it kind of a little messy because when you kind of really tinker with the script, and for Venom to be the second villain behind Sandman in that movie, I think really just downplayed the importance of the character.
Well, second of 3, because they also threw in Hobgoblin, too.
See, I honestly forgot about Spider-Man 3 for the most part, so you know what? Whatever you're saying about it, this is all coming back right now.
They finally had Harry Osborn mount the glider.
Yeah, honestly, they should have had Harry be the sole villain because the other two Raimi movies had been building up the tension between Harry and Peter, and then it finally boiled, and then the end of the second movie, Harry gets all of the stuff he needs to become Green Goblin, and then he's introduced in the third one, and then he gets hit in the head and he loses all ambition to kill Peter.
Yeah, it just kind of seemed that there was just issues with the script, at least from me being a movie goer. I can pick that movie apart and just rip it to shreds because I love Spider-Man 1. That is one of my all-time favorites. 2 I even like better. And then just to see it kind of all just kind of go off the tracks.
I was going to say the first two hold up really well.
Still do.
Yeah, I rewatched them about a month ago, and it's like, yeah, they're still really good. Probably better than, honestly, the 2 Andrew Garfield movies. That's just my opinion. I mean, I know there are a lot of
I agree with that opinion.
I know there's a lot of fans who like the Andrew Garfield movies.
I agree with your opinion, though.
I mean, the scene in Spider-Man 2 where he stops the subway train from crashing off the end of the tracks is still one of the better scenes in a superhero movie I've seen.
Absolutely. So, thus with that legacy, and then you introduce, like we said, Venom is a very important Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, while I wouldn't say he's the most well-known of Spider-Man's villains, he's definitely very popular.
I'll argue. I will say in the modern time of comics, I'd say he is very well known because he was used very heavily since he was introduced, and he's kind of taken a life of his own.
Yeah,
which I think has had some good success, and I've seen some, maybe, I don't know, when they really kind of tinker with the character and they removed him from Eddie Brock. And then he was getting, I think he was with Max Gargan at one point.
I know. I think he's Flash Thompson right now. I think that's the current one. I haven't really been following it too much.
I have to double check because I think he did go back to Eddie Brock, but there was like another person introduced after Flash.
I know at one point Venom literally becomes a Guardian of the Galaxy.
That's Flash.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't know if he was still that version, though. I don't.
If memory serves me right, and somebody please correct me on social media if I'm wrong, there was another reintroduction of the character, and it went to somebody else. And then I think now with Marvel kind of redoing some of their lines, that I think that he did go back to Eddie Brock. And that is the current one that is out right now. But I agree that I think for that character, Lethal Protector was a great series to go based off of. And I think there's a lot of wiggle room to really expand on the character, especially you're getting Tom Hardy involved, who already played an iconic character in Bane and the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
So I think for him to co-sign on this is really saying something. And if they're going to go in a different direction than the Spider-Man movies, because Spider-Man Homecoming was great, and I'll stand with Brad Guy, I was not a huge fan of the Andrew Garfield run of Amazing Spider-Man. I think that they really got to nail it out of the park, and I think they really have to make him be a standalone. You don't really need to tie him into the Guardians, as we said, he was on the team, but I think you need to keep him his own and really develop the character as who he is. Now, if you borrow other character names as, background players, so to speak, for the MCU, I think that's a good look. I think that you can say, yeah, he's part of it, but we're going to keep him in his own section over here.
I was going to say, I don't even think it's supposed, from what I read, and this is a while ago, it might have changed, I don't even think he's supposed to be part of the MCU. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to just be Venom. It's his own world.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be part of the MCU at all.
And you know what? I think that works.
Yeah, it's kind of muddy with the whole who has what.
I mean,
I remember hearing something to the same effect, though.
Yeah, because unlike the Sony deal with Marvel, if I remember correctly, is Sony still has the rights to their Spider-Man characters, but they're allowed to be in Marvel movies now.
Yeah, they have a working agreement going on.
Yeah.
So that's why this movie, it stars Venom, but it doesn't have to take place in the MCU because Sony still holds the rights for him.
And I think that works for the character.
Yeah, no, it'll be definitely very interesting to see. I mean, if I can, predict down the future, I think they will maybe eventually do a sequel. They don't necessarily have to make it a trilogy of coming out in succession very quickly. I think this is something maybe you can stagger over the years. If they do a run with Carnage in the sequel, I make a recommendation of doing the Ultimate Spider-Man run of Carnage, because boy, that was really something.
It depends on what they go, because the Ultimate version, if they're going to have Venom spawn Carnage like it was in the original origin of Carnage, the Ultimate version isn't really going to work, because the Ultimate version was Carnage was the result of splicing Peter's mutated DNA with Connor's DNA, and it was violent and it was good, but it's like it wouldn't really work for the movie if they do. It depends on what take they do for the movie, I guess, is what matters.
My guess is they're going to do the Ultimates take. I think a lot of the current movies that they're doing borrows from the Ultimates because it relates to the younger audience.
Yeah, and I'm thinking specifically of the line when Gwen Stacy dies in the Ultimate line as a result of Carnage. No.
Oh, Venom? Okay, you didn't. Okay, we'll just edit that part out. So let us know what you think. Tom Hardy as Venom, is it a good move? Is it a bad move? We all agree it is, and we're kind of excited to see where the movie is going to take place, but I got to admit, we got a little trepidation going forward with it. Can it be the success that it needs to be? Let us know. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHE. We'll be right back. We're now on iTunes. That's right. The Ocho Duro Parlay Hour is now on iTunes. So download, rate, and subscribe. Spread the word, and thank you for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour.
I'm the street light guiding you home. Avoid the wrong step into.
Coming back for another segment on this week's Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. DC has a new show coming to the Sci-Fi Network. Pad, why don't you break it down for us?
Yes, I got the show coming out on the Sci-Fi Network March 21st, in fact, titled Krypton. It is a story that takes place well before Superman comes to Earth and, becomes Superman. It involves, if you've seen the trailer, if you can find it on YouTube, Superman's grandfather of all things. Guys, want to get your thoughts on the show?
Braga, what you think?
I mean, I'm okay with it. It's kind of like there's not really much out for it right now. So it's like, all right, I want to see what the first episode looks like. I mean, it has potential. The trailer looks like it's going to be dealing with a civil war on Krypton, which, for those of you who know, Krypton wasn't always the nicest of places, even before it got blown to shreds. So it has potential to be really neat. Like, you could do almost a DC version of Game of Thrones on Krypton in like a sci-fi-esque world where different houses are vying for power. And it's going to focus around the grandfather of Superman. And in the trailer, someone is telling him, obviously from the future, that your grandson is going to become the greatest hero this galaxy has ever known. So it's kind of interesting. Like, okay, well, how is this going to relate to Superman? Or is that going to be like it? They just refer to, okay, this is his grandfather. That's all you need to know.
I think it can kind of go one of two ways. Either it's going to be really interesting to see the background of the Kryptonian legacy of Superman and possibly open the door for maybe some other characters to join fandom in the DC Comics possibly. I know that one area I'm always very critical on, and if you hear me on the blogs or you hear me on the show, Supergirl does not have a great rogues gallery. Could somebody from this show possibly spin into the comics and maybe add to her universe there? That's one possibility.
It could be. I'm not entirely gung-ho for this show. I'll give it a watch. I'm very interested. Superman is my favorite DC superhero. I wasn't entirely aware that there was a giant clamoring for a show of this sort. It'll be interesting to see, and I think, kind of going off what Brian said, they definitely could make this a Game of Thrones style show with the houses vying for power. I can definitely see that. The person telling your grandson's going to be the greatest superhero this galaxy's ever known was an interesting twist. But I'm interested to see it. I'll give it a watch, but I'm not exactly like I need to see this right now.
And for those of you who are actual Game of Thrones fans, I can't remember the actor's name, but the actor who plays Barristan Selmy is going to be in this show.
Okay. Interesting fact. Yeah, like I said, I mean, this could go one of two ways. Either it's going to really add to the legacy of Superman, or, I don't know, when they try tying in too much, it's always the Star Wars episodes 1, 2, 3 effect with me. Like, we're just kind of just making stuff up to just add it to the legacy and hopefully it sticks. I'm really kind of interested to see how it plays out.
I was going to say, if you go with that, it's like it could be a good tie-in you're like, oh, wow, that was really neat. I'm glad they did that. Or it could be like an episode 3 of Star Wars where you're like, okay, that was good, but it wasn't needed. Or it's Phantom Menace where you're like, okay, why did you have to make this?
This might not even, as I'm looking at IMDb, this might not even be a full show. IMDb is listing it as a TV miniseries. Of course, we mentioned episode 1 premieres on March 21st. There's only 4 episodes listed here.
Well, that's kind of interesting take. If it is going to be a miniseries, I think it was going to be a regular series.
That's kind of what I thought, too.
So it could be something. We're still going to, definitely get your facts checked about that when the show starts progressing. A miniseries might be something, and if it spins off into a regular series, I could see that, and I'd be okay with that, too. It's just anytime you kind of delve into the legacy of such an iconic character, you really got to kind of tread very lightly. I know Smallville was an excellent show, and it really added some depth to the character that I've never been the biggest Superman guy. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm more of a Batman fan if I have to choose the DC fandom. But Smallville definitely added some character depth that I needed to really help me understand Superman more than what I've kind of seen. I mean, obviously the Christopher Reeves movies have always been a very great thing.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't know. Like in the comics, I've never really kind of seen what makes Superman so great.
It comes down to, like you said, it's not just Supergirl. Superman doesn't have a great rogues gallery either, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on one of our shows previously. It's like the only people who can really go toe-to-toe with Superman, the man who can do everything, is Lex Luthor when he builds like some mech suit that can enhance himself and his fighting capabilities, Doomsday, and Zod.
And Brainiac. That's my four. That's my four. No, I agree. I completely agree. Because after that, it's very difficult to write villains that can challenge somebody who, like you said, can literally do everything. That's been always a struggling point for me with Superman. But when he's written well, it's great. And I'm not taking anything away from the character, but it's just, it really needs to resonate that.
I think the interesting thing for me with the series is how it will be received, because it will be a show without Superman. That there will be no Kal-El, there will be no Clark Kent. How well will a show do where one of, if not the most recognizable superheroes on the planet never makes an appearance?
I was going to say, and his grandfather looks like he's pretty young, so I don't even think we're going to get a fun Easter egg of a young Jor-El.
No, because, and Ken can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure how long Kryptonians live, but I'm not sure how much time they're going to be playing with here.
I don't know, because obviously due to everybody knows what happens to Krypton, it's pretty much wide open. I don't know the time frame they're going to do with the show. It does look interesting, so I'm definitely going to give it a watch. And kind of see where it plays out. And I would like to see maybe like a House of Cards or Game of Thrones type political, battling houses, like however you want to define it, just because they got to add some drama to it. Because if it's just kind of cookie cutter and they're going to keep name dropping, I don't want to use the comparison, but I think I'm going to. Like in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the first season, every time it was like tying into the Avengers and the event. You know how that went down the first season?
Yep.
I don't want to see him keep tying into like, well, you know what your grandson's going to be every episode.
Right.
Like, build your universe.
I don't want to see like all the episodes being like, okay, there's the House of Zod, and they're always like, all shall kneel before Zod. And it's like, I don't want him to keep like emphasizing that. It's like, okay, we get it. That's Zod's catchphrase. Can you stop and just keep giving us a story instead of just fan tidbits?
I think for me, what will make it good and make it very interesting is if they explore what led. Like we said, we all know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. The planet's going to explode. You know, only a few are going to get off. Clark and his cousin. I think what will make it interesting for me is if they kind of explore. Don't give me everything. Just give me enough. What led to that point? What led to the strife? What led to the planet, eventually collapsing in on itself and exploding? Because it wasn't just the planet didn't just wake up one morning and go, well, I'm going to explode today.
Yeah, no, there's got to be reasons behind it.
I know in Man of Steel, the Kryptonians depleted their energy sources, so they tried harvesting from their planet's core, which unstabilized the planet itself, which caused the collapse.
Right, so if we go off of what the movie explains, what if the series goes, okay, well, there's a rising strife between these two houses, almost like a Cold War situation, an arms race. What if that is the cause? Okay, so there's an quote-unquote arms race, as it were, between these two housing factions. So they're depleting the core more and more and more. I would like to see something like that.
Yeah, it's got to be an interesting story behind it. I mean, that sells TV. If it's got a great story and great acting and great action or whatever you're looking for in your show, it's got to deliver
That's
on that.
That's just entertainment in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But this is what it needs to do, because especially if you're delving into a sci-fi series and you're tying it into one of the most iconic movie superheroes, or superheroes in general, rather.
Yeah.
That you really have a lot on your shoulders to bear. Now, can the show deliver? I think it could.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of going into it with, like I said, a very open mind, because, like I said, I've never been the biggest Superman fan. I do like the character because the Ultimate Boy Scout is definitely something to look up to as a superhero. I just want to make sure that there's enough story around it to deliver on it, that it doesn't put a stain on the character.
If you ever want a cool take of an opinion on how people can view Superman, if you look up the scene from Kill Bill, look up Kill Bill Superman analogy, and it'll kind of show you a different way that you can view Superman, which after watching that movie, I kind of looked at Superman a little differently myself.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good books that come out recently, and like you said with the Kill Bill analogy too, that you can really connect with the audience with it. And I think it needs to for the show. And dare I say, too, kudos to Sci-Fi for stepping up their comic TV production, because not only do you have Krypton coming out, Happy has been killing it on the just for production and just the whole delivery. Everything about the show has been awesome. So if this can, delve into, obviously it's going to be a different subject matter than Happy, which if you...
I was going to say, if we got Happy set in the Krypton universe, that's just going to be really messed up.
The host's head might explode from that one.
That would just be amazing. I'm sorry, I don't know how they would do it, and I don't even want to try thinking about it, because
you want to see it now, though, don't you?
I do. Now, thank you. I now have that image stuck in my head of just Happy flying around Jor-El and just...
Tweet Grant Morrison, yo, make Happy happen in the Krypton universe.
That would be amazing. Which, like I said, kudos to Sci-Fi. They definitely stepped up their comic production on the TV side. And you know what? Everything they've done so far, I mean, Happy's been the prime example, has been spot on. So you know what? I have very high hopes for Krypton. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHE. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for this week's final segment on the ODPHEE, and it's quick hits from around the panel. So, Pad, start us off.
Yeah, interesting little article came out today. Anthony Mackie, of course, plays Falcon in the Marvel movies, was at a Comic-Con recently and had an interesting quote where he talked about the upcoming Avengers movie. He said, quote, "There was one day we were on set and we were doing the scene that's in the trailer. We were where we are all running to battle, all of us on set, and it's like 40 superheroes. I look to my right and I see Tom Holland and Dave Bautista, of course, Spider-Man and Drax. I see them in the corner and Tom is literally the size of Dave's leg. I don't know what they're talking about, but Bautista jumps up and does a kick punch move, and I was like, yo, you're about to kill him." So as funny as that end line is, and if I'm not mistaken, the scene he is referring to that's in the trailer, I believe, is the one where you see them all running at the camera kind of in slow motion at the very end. There is 40 superheroes in that scene. Holy cow.
That's a lot. No, Avengers Infinity War has a lot to live up to, so hopefully it delivers on that. I don't see it not delivering, so It's going to definitely bring something to the table. Braga, what you got for this week?
Another comic book movie, and one that's really not been talked about at all lately because it's coming out next year still, is Todd McFarlane's Spawn movie that'll be coming out next year. For those of you who don't know, after Todd McFarlane helped found Image Comics, the first series he helped do was his Spawn. It's an all right comic, but I mean it is a gorgeous looking one, so that's part of the reason I would recommend looking at it, is just the artwork is phenomenal. But next year he is going to write, direct, and produce his own Spawn movie. And he said, there hasn't really been much about it, but he said later this week that he's going to provide some update on his movie. He wasn't too happy, and not a lot of people were, with the Spawn movie that came out in the 90s. So this is kind of like a neat one that'll be coming out, especially when it's going to be from the original man who created Spawn. So it has a lot of potential to be pretty cool.
Yeah, this is his baby, as it were. He's going to take care of this, and it's going to be good.
Yeah, McFarlane is definitely going to take his time with this and deliver, and he's going to get the true vision of Spawn that he's always wanted to tell. So can't go wrong with that. I had two quick hits this week. One, touching upon, we were talking about Superman last segment. Brian Michael Bendis has officially been announced for the first DC Comics work he's going to be doing, and it's a backup story in Action Comics 1000.
Ooh.
Can you believe we actually got 1,000 issues of Action Comics? Crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, it's a cool thing that's going to be done. I know it's going to be an all-star jam throughout DC, and he is going to be doing, like I said, a backup story in there with the one and only Jim Lee providing the artwork for it. So not only were you going to pick up the issue to begin with, but you can't go wrong with that. So there's going to be a lot of stuff getting thrown in there. So definitely keep your eyes out for that when that comes out in April. And the other news I had is there was a show that I attended at New York Comic Con that I think has got a lot of potential coming out. Is called Deception. And it's finally got a release date of March 11th. And if I read it correctly, it will be on after the American Idol remake at 10 p.m.
Smart idea.
So if it's true, that's a great time slot. Like I said, I went to go see the panel, and it was pretty much Magician Impossible. It's got a cool story of an FBI using a magician to help solve crimes, or kind of vice versa. He's framed for a crime, and he's working with the FBI to clear it, and he's showing illusions how to do it. If you're into magic and you're into kind of like your TV cop drama, it's definitely worth checking out, and Vinnie Jones is in it. Wikipedia if you don't know who he is, because he is awesome. Going into our recommendations for this week, and mine is going to be check out Black Lightning. We talked about it last show. Every review I've seen thus far about it on the CW has been nothing short of amazing. I'm super excited to see this. I think it's definitely going to be the big hit of the spring season of TV. So I'm recommending it, checking it out on the CW this week, and also the Gifted season finale tonight as we were taping on Monday night on Fox. Braga, what you got for this week?
I mentioned this on my blog, and I'm going to say it again for those of you who have been keeping up with DC Comics, the Metal event. That'll be wrapping up this next month, I believe, or at least by the end of March. So I would definitely recommend getting the past issues and catching up on that. It is probably one of my favorite comics I've read just because it is so different and out there. I mean, it has an entire Justice League pantheon made up of corrupted versions of Bruce Wayne fulfilling the roles of the Justice League. It's just awesome in every sense of the word. And the artwork is by Greg Capullo, and it's written by Scott Snyder. It's just really good. I can't stress enough how much you should check that out.
Pat, what you got?
I'm going to recommend the book Artemis by Andy Weir, of course, who wrote The Martian, which was made into the very successful Matt Damon movie. Recommend that book. I just started reading it myself. Only a couple chapters into it. Very interesting. Fox is going to make it into a movie. Before the book even came out, they grabbed the rights to turn it into a movie. It's about a base on the moon where people live. That's all I'm going to go into because I think you should read it for yourself and kind of experience everything for yourself. It's a great read, and I'm very interested to see what they do with the movie.
That's what we got on tap this week, but let us know what you're doing. Is there any movies, TV, or comics we need to go check out? Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE. So for Brag Eye Signal, the intern himself, Padawan J, I am your host, Ken M. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. See you next time.